Hello everyone, welcome back in my kitchen. This afternoon I would like to show you how to make some delicious and very nourishing, super easy fish cakes. Now I've already started with the main ingredient, which is a sweet potato, and I peeled it and I cut it in small cubes, as you can see, so that they get soft much more quickly. It took them about 10 minutes in boiling water to get to a state where I can mash them. And that's exactly the first thing I'm going to do. So get yourself a bowl, put the sweet potatoes in the bowl and mash them to pulp. As you can see, it's very easy, doesn't take long, and I'm chucking it all over the place. Right, and we don't want to waste any of this mash, so let's make sure we get everything out of this thingy here. So, okay. So this is step number 1. Peel, boil and mash one sweet potato. Next step is to put some garlic in. I've already peeled it. It only needs crushing and then getting out of there with a small knife. And this is really important, the garlic, because it will make a difference to the taste of your fish cakes. And then we also want to put in, of course, the main ingredient, some tinned fish. Now I know that a lot of people like to put tinned tuna in their fish cakes. I'm not a fan of tuna because it's a predator fish. It eats a lot of smaller fish, and because every fish actually accumulates mercury. The more fish fish eats, the more mercury it will accumulate in the body. So tuna has the highest amount of mercury among all the fish. So salmon doesn't have this problem. It's not a predator fish. It doesn't eat other fish, and so it's safer to use for us, because when we eat tuna with a lot of mercury, we actually store the mercury in our body. We don't want this mercury. Thank you very much. So put some tin of salmon in your bowl and separate all the pieces carefully. You can also use tinned sardines or mackerel, would also go really well. Oily fish in general, like salmon, sardines and mackerel are really good. A good source of omega-3, which we actually, most of us don't have enough, get enough in our diet. Usually we have an abundance of omega-6 but not enough omega-3, and we need the right ratio between the two of them, and the ratio for omega-6 is way out. So we need to reduce omega-6s in favor of omega-3s, and this is a nice way of doing it. And just in case you wonder what omega-3 is actually good for, it's important for our immune health, but also important for our brain health. So if you have any problems with brain fog, lack of focus, concentration, and first beginning stages of dementia, I would recommend to have more omega-3 in your diet. And of course you can supplement with it as well, but it's also good to get it in your diet, or from your diet. So I've mashed it really well. As you can see, it's very colorful. We've got orange and pink colors so far. And now we want to add some vegetables, of course, because we also need nutrients from vegetables, minerals and vitamins that are abundant in vegetables, and also fiber. So I've already cut some spring onions. So I took a bunch of them and cut some of them already, and I'm going to cut the rest. Cut it as finely as you can, because you will make you know, the consistency of the mixture much better. It will make everything stick together much easier. Right, so now we have some white and green color from the spring onions. And then I'm a fan of adding some more vegetables. You know me by now. The more variety we can get into our diet, the better. And the more variety we get into every meal, the better. So I'm going to use some of this pak choy. So I would recommend some green leafy veg on top of the spring onions, like the green stuff of pak choy. And again, chop it finely. But you can also use kale, spinach chopped finely. What else could you? And chard. It's not widely used, I know, but it's a very easy vegetable to grow yourself in your garden. I've got plenty of chard in my garden, and also the leaves of beetroots can be eaten. So that could be chopped as well and put in fish cakes to introduce more variety into everything you eat. And instead of spring onions, or you know, like a half and half, you could also use some leek, again, to increase the variety. And you know, the variety is really important, because every vegetable, every food we eat has a different type of fiber, or different types of fiber, sometimes a combination, and we want as many different types of fiber in our diet as possible. And why? Because we have trillions of microbes in our gut, and the beneficial guys that keep us healthy, they thrive on different types of fiber. And since we don't know, you know, the strain of bacteria that's living in our gut, not all of them are known, because some of them can't actually survive in an aerobic environment. So we just need to have as much different food as possible to feed all of them, even the ones that we don't know about yet, or will never know about. Right, so we mix this really well, and then of course we need some eggs to bind everything together, otherwise it will all fall apart in the frying pan. So because it's quite a lot, I'm going to use 2 eggs. Right. You can see what I'm doing. Yeah. Whee, some calcium ended up in my bowl. Not too bad, but maybe not today. Right. And that's another thing, actually, you know, like tinned salmon with the bones actually is a good source of calcium. So it's a better source of calcium actually than in dairy. Cow's dairy has got a lot of problems, causes a lot of problems for a lot of people, because the milk, today's milk, is very difficult to digest because it's been pasteurized and homogenized, and that makes the molecules, you know, it's very hard for them to pass into the blood. So if you're a fan of cow's milk, then it's always good to warm it up and use some digestive spices with cow's milk, but substitute milks are much better, like almond milk is my favorite, because it's also high in magnesium. And as I said, you can, you know, the more variety of food you eat, the more you get the calcium from different sorts of foods, because calcium is in a lot of food, also in green leafy veg, and as I said, in tinned salmon with the bones. So we've got this, and the last thing we need is to season everything. So apart from using the usual salt and pepper, which we could start with, I like using pink salt, because it's got a lot of different minerals in it. And and some pepper. Pepper again helps with digestion. It's not very well known why we use pepper in every meal, but that's one of the functions of pepper, to warm up our digestive system and make everything easier to digest. And then you can go, like in any direction. So you can use Mediterranean herbs like thyme and oregano, either dried or from your own garden or bought, from a supermarket. So I forgot to fetch some fresh herbs from my garden. So I could have used my own thyme and basil and some parsley, but I forgot, so I'm going to use thyme and oregano, the dried form. And then I also like to use turmeric. It's so good as a blood thinner for our liver, as anti-inflammatory, to detox the body, you name it, and it's doing it. Then you can use all sorts of ground spices if you like. So you can use some paprika if you like, or some ground coriander, make it a little bit, give it a more Indian flavor. So instead of using oregano and thyme, you can use that. Some fenugreek if you want it more Indian, tasting like Indian food, or some ground ginger. And ginger is always good. So I'm also going to put some ground ginger in this mixture. I like putting ginger in anything because it's just so good for our digestive system. And again, for so many different reasons. I won't go into too many details. But again, it's antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, helps with any digestive issue. Ginger is your friend. So if you don't know what change to make in your diet, first put more ginger in anything and everything you cook. So this is it really. So this is what it looks like. Really nice, orangey, pink, green colors. And now we're going to fry them in the pan. So again, I have my favorite oil, which you may know already. It's ghee. Ghee is clarified butter. Very, very beneficial again for our gut bacteria, the ones that we want to make thrive, and the ones that keep our gut lining intact. So ghee helps with that. It contains butyrate, that's where the name butter comes from. And butyrate feeds the beneficial guys, and the ones in the gut lining especially, and they help repair the gut lining. Every day they do this job, among many other jobs. So really important. Right, let's get it going. Of course, you can also use another frying oil, like coconut oil is a good one. Although it's high in saturated fat, it's very beneficial for the body. It's also easy to digest. It bypasses the liver. For anybody with gallbladder issues, that's your go-to oil probably. And then you can also use very high quality extra virgin olive oil, organic if possible, because we don't want to store the pesticides in our fat tissue that are used, in non-organic oils. Right, let's get this ghee melted in the pan. I used a generous amount, and we need to make sure that the oil is at the right temperature for our fish cakes. And in the meantime, we can just mix everything even better. And one other thing to really be aware of, make sure it's not too fluid. So when you drain the sweet potatoes, make sure you drain all the fluid. Otherwise it gets very, thin and doesn't stick together either. And for vegans, if you don't want to use eggs, you can use flax seeds. put them in a bowl with some boiling hot water, and then the flax seeds will turn into a sort of gel, and that can also be used as a binder. So you don't have to use eggs. As you know, I'm not a vegan, I'm not a vegetarian, I eat a little bit of everything. Again, for the variety, you know. We also need meat, but not, you know, every day. So once a week, maybe twice a week is enough. So, and then take when the oil is hot enough, and you can test it by, you know, like when it starts sizzling, produces this sizzling sound, and it's ready. Let's heat it up a little bit more, and then you use a generous amount of the mixture like this, and put it in the pan, and then flatten it with the spoon into any shape, really. You know, it doesn't have to be perfectly round. Yeah, can you hear the sizzling sound? Right, so it's got the right temperature now. Turn down the heat a little bit, you don't want to burn these fish cakes. And I can fit about 4 easily into the frying pan. And that's one way of doing it. And the other way of doing it is use a muffin form and put some of these in each form, and put some of the mixture in each of the muffin forms. Put it in the oven, gas mark 5 to 6 would be ideal, and yeah, roast them in the oven for 20 minutes, bake them, and they should be fine. You know, like touch the top of the surface in order to check whether they're ready, and when there's not so much resistance anymore, then you know that they're ready. So that's another way of doing it. And frying the fish cakes in a pan, you fry each side about 4 to 5 minutes, and then turn them over, and then they're ready. Put them in a bowl and serve them. You can serve them with some salad or just eat them like this. This would also make some perfect travel food. So it's now the beginning of the holiday season, and you can, you know, fry them in the morning before you go and have them at lunchtime. So perfect to have a really good meal as your lunch. So I hope you are going to enjoy experimenting with this fish cake recipe, which I'm going to post with this video, and enjoy them as much as I'm going to in a few minutes. Bye!